Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you have a great day. Hope this video can make it a little bit better. Today we're doing the Twisted Fate guide, so let's just jump right into it. First, to start off with his card, he is a 4-cost 2/2, so pretty horrific stat line for his cost. He is a very fragile champion. Also, his level up condition is I've seen you draw 9 cards, so he has to be on the board and actually see you draw the cards. This can't happen while he's in hand, so he's a pretty difficult level up condition, very weak stat line. But he does have quick attack, which is nice, and then play a destiny card that is right here. So when you play him, you get to choose one of these 3 cards to play. So refill 1 spell mana, draw 1, solid. Red card, deal 1 to all enemies and the enemy nexus, great for triggering plunder damage. Gold card, 2 damage and stun the strongest enemy. So each one of these pretty solid. So you play him, you get to do one of those. If he's able to level, now every time you play a card for the first 3, every single round, he now plays one of these destiny cards. That is great, and I believe it's always in the same order of blue, then red, then gold. So his level up is a very strong effect. He does get an extra 1/1, but getting that level up is difficult. Now, one of the best ways you can improve with your Twisted Fate is getting good with his champion spell. So his pick a card, burst speed, 2 costs, so pretty cheap. Place a card from your hand into your deck, and then you draw 2 more at next round start, but they are fleeting, meaning they'll get discarded at the end of the round if you don't play them. Now, one thing you can do is you can play this card on one of your fleeting cards you're not going to be able to play to put that card back in your deck. That way you don't lose it. Also, this extra draw is a great way to try to get him leveled. Let's take a look at the starting deck before we move on to the Constellation. So we have Pool Shark, when summon, draw 1 at next round start, granted fleeting. Great, giving you extra draw. Also, even though it's fleeting, if you can't play it, you have ways like your pick a card to put it back in your deck. And as you see, pick a card right here, this is his champion spell, but it's also in your starting deck, so that's very nice. And it gets that Ardent Censer. Since you're playing a bunch of this card, this will actually be a pretty big deal. Black Market Merchant, 2 cost. When you draw an enemy card, it reduces cost by 1 with that Plunder Nab 1, so some Nab synergy there for you. Dreadweight Deckhand. When summon a powder keg with extra draw on it, very nice. And then powder keg, increase the damage of all your spells and skills. You actually do a lot of spells and skills, so that is quite nice. Also, I'll just quickly mention, these count as skills. So even if you are triggering these with a spell that we'll show you later, it actually scales with skill damage, not spell damage, so important to note that. Then we have Make It Rain with Grifter's deck and the Charging Sigil. Great way to get some extra damage, but the Grifter's deck is very nice just to make sure you don't run out of cards, which can be an issue, especially early on for Twisted Fate. Then we have the Slot Bot, so 3 cost. This scales with the amount of cards you draw and can be an absolute monster. Then we get the Spray Fin, so 3 cost, elusive, attune. When I'm summoned, draw a spell that costs 3 or less from your deck. Really nice. Overall, just very solid card for you. Then we have Twisted Fate and Ruined Rex. Now, he's one that can be pretty strong. You might cut him though, just because he's a little bit on the expensive side. Play Cannon Barrages, randomly targeting enemies for each card you've drawn this round up to 6 times, and those Cannon Barrages 2 to a unit or 1 to the Nexus if they don't have any. So overall, pretty good way to just wear down the enemy units. Taking a look at the Constellation now. First, let's just note what a great design it is. So you have your 4-star over here to the side, your 5-star here to the side, and then the 6-star right over here. So you can choose to get those, or you can just go and get some of your bonus nodes. And these 3 right here is just your starting 3. So let's go over what those powers actually are. So first, when you play your 3rd card each round, create a wild card. This is a burst speed spell of playing a destiny card. So there's 3 cards that Twisted Fate can play, the blue card, red card, or gold card. This lets you choose one of those to play. Great. The one difficulty is you need to play at least 3 cards in a round to create one of these. That can be difficult, especially early, so you really want to get as many cheap cards as possible for your Twisted Fate. Your 2-star though, pretty solid. Cards you draw after the first each round cost 1 less. Now this only lasts for the round, but this gives you some cost reduction as long as you're getting more than 1 draw per round. You only get 1 draw by default, so trying to build around more draw is very important because then it enables a whole bunch of cost reduction for you. Your 3-star just makes it so the wild card you generate costs 1 less, which is pretty good. Makes it a lot easier if you get any like Spellslinger or Wild Inspiration for it to just be free, which can be quite nice. 4-star, when you draw a card, give allies 1 power this round. This is actually excellent. You have a lot of ways of drawing extra cards next round, so you can actually stack up a huge combat advantage for the next round which can be really good for you, but then you also have a lot of draw, so you can buff up your allies to pretty ridiculous amounts. This, especially when you get your Twisted Fate going, can be incredibly good. 5-star, get an extra mana gem. 6-star, your Destiny cards are replaced with improved versions. So these are the cards you're making from your wild card or from Twisted Fate. So your blue card now refills 2 spell mana, or you draw 2 cards. Your red card deals 2 to everything, and the gold card deals 7 and then still stuns the strongest. This is very nice. It's very similar to like Elder Dragon, where all of your dragon boons get upgraded. Very similar thing here with Twisted Fate. This gives you a massive spike in power. As far as some of the bonus nodes, 20 Nexus Health and 4 Vision. This is massive. Vision is new to this expansion or to Twisted Fate. How many nodes ahead you can see in Adventures. So normally you can only see 2, but now you can see 4 more. So normally you start the adventure, you can see all the way to like the mini boss, so you can exactly plan out what upgrades and buffs you want to be getting. This really helps you. And then also the 20 Nexus Health is huge. Support champs have Entrancing Lure. Getting the extra draw is nice. When you attack, you can have them attack first, or put them on the left so they strike first. That way they're going to draw an extra card, buffing up all your units with your 4-star. Starve Blessings, your slot bot gets Tech Evolution, so it scales up and gets even bigger. Your 6-star, this one is absolutely massive for you. Your 6 cost cards you acquire in Adventures have Power Rift. So I cost 1 less for each card you've drawn. You very easily can get this to cost nothing. So quite often you're playing these really big expensive cards for completely free, and it is so broken. I love it. Here's one that's also very interesting. Ruined Rex has Luden's Tempest. All of your spells and skills deal 1 extra damage. So just by him being on the board, he's buffing up all of your damage for your spells and skills, and then that's also going to improve his cannon barrages as well. So Twisted Fate actually has some very good upgrades for his Constellation. Taking a look at relics now, Twisted Fate is one that really likes having a kitted out loadout, especially with epic relics. This is my favorite. So Plunder, I cost 2 less with the Pack Powder. Very good for getting him on the board early. You have a lot of ways to trigger Plunder damage. Then I have 1/1 for each different round you've damaged the enemy Nexus. This is actually massive for Twisted Fate. Normally it's an afterthought for many other champions, but for him, since he has such a weak stat line, anything that's buffing him up is really helpful. So that's quite nice. The Deck of Destiny, this is Twisted Fate's champion spell. So 1/1, that alone, really nice, just because you are so weak that, again, anything to help you is good. But then power, game start, create a 1-cost wild card in your deck for every 7 cards in your deck. So those wild cards are the same thing you're generating from your 3-star. Getting even more of them is quite good, especially when you get Twisted Fate to 6 stars, since now they're twice as good essentially. Then Echoing Spirit, this is my favorite for Twisted Fate. I always use this regardless of what the other relics are. Game start, creates 7 copies of me in your deck, so pretty much guarantees you're going to get him at the start of the game. But then your champion spells cost 1 less. Your champion spell already only costs 2, so this is taking it down to a 1 cost. If you draw it, it gets cost reduced from your 2-star, so normally it's going to be free. And then this card is so good for putting fleeting cards back in your deck so you don't lose them, but then also making you get a ton of draw, which just enables so many of your other effects. So getting a whole bunch of him and his champion spell is excellent. Now taking a look at common relics, obviously go for the Cosmic Blessing if you need to level him up as soon as possible, which I'd actually recommend doing just because he's really weak at low levels. He's someone that's great at high levels, terrible early. So leveling him up as soon as possible, really important. I highly recommend you use some blessings if you have them. If not though, Spell Shield can be good to give him a little bit of extra protection. Chameleon's Necklace, solid, same thing for Echoing, just this is the common relic version, but still very good. And then Star Child Staff or Z Drive, both of these are very good for anytime you get a common slot. Just makes your runs through adventures so much more consistent. So highly recommend throwing either one of these on anytime you have a relic slot open, or at least a common relic slot. For some rare relics, I think he is pretty good with like a common spellcaster build. So going for like Archangels, Chemtech, and then the Grand General's Counterplan, quite good. So this would normally be my general go-to as far as rare relics, but anything that's going to help your stats, that can be pretty good. Chase Guns, not bad to try to make sure you can play those 3 cards in a round because it gives you 2 free warning shots, so that's pretty good. Ludens, also quite solid since you do a lot of damage with your spells and skills, but you can also go for an approach of just focusing on your units with like a Blade Rack as well as the Troll King's Crown for allies having that overwhelm. But you could go for Scourge's Stash, really good to try to get him on the board early. Also, you can trigger Plunder very easily. And then you can go for the Gravedigger Spade for a little bit of extra draw as well. Taking a look at Epic Relics now, Big Guns is solid just to try to get more damage, especially when he's not even on the board, since you do so much damage with your spells and skills. Black Shield, great for trying to protect him, especially in adventures that have a lot of damage or removal, such as like going for Lysandra or potentially Swain. Chosen, this is really good if you're going to go for the Victor Relic to pair alongside it. So the perfect hex core. This one's good on its own, just giving you a free card to play every round, which is very solid since you need to play at least 3 cards every round for your wild cards. But with these together, you can trigger your Faded Augment, get a whole bunch of scaling. So these two is a great pairing. Loaded dice, pretty good for the extra rerolls, always solid. And then stack deck, you do have some benefit for getting extra cards, especially if you're going with his champion relic that we showed off earlier. So stack deck, if you pair those two together, can be pretty good. And then Beast Within, just to make sure all your units have Overwhelm, is quite solid as well. That's it for the in-game portion. Let's now go look at what powers you want to look out for, support champs, cards to look out for, and finish off with his rankings. All right, take a look at powers now. Up here on the left, we have the Counterfeit Production. Round start, create a fleeting zero-cost counterfeit copies in hand. This is good for a couple reasons. For one, it's just giving you a free card to play every round. That's great because you need to play 3 cards every round if possible. So that alone, really good. Anything that you're seeing that gives you free or cheap spell to play every single round, go for it. But also the counterfeit copies is able to shuffle a whole bunch of good cards into your deck. So using this on like your wild cards or your Twisted Fate can be very solid. So great card for you. Fast deal. Round start, draw 1, give it fleeting. When you discard a card, create a copy of it in your deck. Great for you. You want extra draw. And then making some fleeting synergy there is solid as well. Then all skill, your skills deal 2 extra damage. You actually have a lot of skill damage. So anything that's affecting your spells or skills is good, but for things like this that are only affecting skills, it's actually fine for you because that's still most of your damage as far as damage from spells and skills. Next up then, the best defense, allies of attack, grow my health to match my power. With your 4-star, your unit's going to have way higher attack or power pools than health, and so this is just able to really boost up your units, which is quite nice. Spell Slinger, your spells cost 1 less. This or like Wild Inspiration, Sorcery, anything that is just giving you some extra draw, extra cost reduction, or just your spell mana back to make things easier to play, any of that is really, really good for you. Crush, allies have Overwhelm, always solid, but especially with your 4-star, getting all that extra power from drawing, this can be pretty good for you since most or almost none of your units, I think, have Overwhelm, so making sure they get it from this is quite handy. Then last up here, gearing up, game start, summon 2 armed gearheads. That alone, good. Every champion likes getting, or everyone likes getting more units at the start of the game, but you can attack with these right away, trigger your plunder damage, make it so you can get your Twisted Fate on the board. They also scale with created cards and have quick attack, which is great for your increasing the power as well as all the created cards you play. Enfeebling, since you do a lot of damage with spells and skills or quick attack units, very good for just weakening up the enemy. Very solid defensive here. Then flexible games plan, game start, draw 2. Really good, especially with your 2-star or your 2nd-star power, since it only triggers after the first card you draw. So gain some extra draw, especially at the start of the game, can let you play some pretty solid cards turn 1, which can really surprise the enemy. Taking a look at support champs now, 2 of the most important things to look out for is draw and then cost reduction. Anything that has that through either the cards themselves or some of the upgrades on them is very good. Also, I will say, just anyone that has cheap cards, like if everything you're getting is 2 cost or less, can also be really good. But for draw, we have Neela, really good. And then for the cost reduction, we have Janna. She actually works for both of them, but either of these champions will be very good for Twisted Fate. Now, as far as some cards to look out for, I'm not necessarily saying look for these exact cards. This is just some of the types of cards you want. So you can see here, a lot of these have extra draw on them. Almost all of these have some form of draw. So whether you're looking for spells, units, that's really what you want to be looking for. Also, nab counts as draw as well. So it's a great way to try to level up your Twisted Fate, get all your bonuses from drawing cards. So just any solid cards you see that have extra draw on them, especially if they have some good cost reduction associated with it as well, is very good for you. Now, as far as the final rankings, I think before level 20, he's actually pretty rough. I think he's down in the C tier. And honestly, I think you could even argue that he'd be in like the D tier, so like low end of C. It's pretty rough. You definitely want to use some of your XP relics on him to boost him up. Now, I think after level 20 and especially like level 30, you're getting a full relic build together, he can be incredibly strong. He gets a lot of good upgrades from his level ups, from his Constellation. So I think he goes to be an S tier champion. I think It's kind of similar to Akshan, where it is that like low S tier, maybe like top of A sort of range, but still I think he's potentially like bottom of S tier champion. As far as pros, crazy scaling, I did put that asterisk there because I'm not necessarily meaning just crazy scaling in like your specific adventure. Well, he can get that with his 4-star. This is more crazy scaling as far as you're leveling him up, as he's getting closer to that level 30 triple relic build. That's where he's getting a lot more power from. He's quite similar to a lot of like the Bandle champions, where they're terrible early but actually very strong later on. You also have some great versatility, especially with the cards, being able to choose exactly what you want to play. Great for so many different situations. Now, as far as some cons, you are an incredibly squishy champion. Very easy for the enemy to kill you, and the enemy will try to be killing your Twisted Fate. So that is definitely a massive weakness. Also, you're very weak early. Again, I don't really mean early in a specific adventure. I mean like in your early levels as you're getting him up. If you just have him at like 1 or 2 stars, he's a very weak champion and can be quite rough. Now, I think as far as the regional rankings, he's up there at the top. Misfortune is probably still stronger than him, but I think he's stronger than like Pike, Nautilus, everyone with the just 3 stars, obviously. Overall, though, I think he is quite a bit of fun. One of my new favorite champions. I highly recommend you give him a shot. Hope this video was able to help you, though, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.